Good evening, members. I'd like to begin by addressing a couple of related issues around flags, identity and graffiti. Councillor Rosehill raised some of them in his question earlier, but it wouldn't have done them justice, or in my view, been appropriate to consider those issues in response to a question framed around a deeply problematic outfit like Operation Raise the Colours. But as Councillor Rosehill has clearly reduced, misconstrued and misunderstood my comments about flags to nothing more than branding people raising flags as extremist, I make no apology for taking some additional time this evening to make that position absolutely clear. But first, many members, like myself, will have received numerous contacts from local residents distressed about the appearance of offensive graffiti at Keystone Passage by the retail park in Borough Wood. I want to thank our engineering services team for removing it as soon as Nando's, the owner of the building, provided the consent enabling us to do so, and indeed to thank Councillor Rosehill for trying to remove it before the professionals got to the job. People have questioned why this graffiti was particularly offensive, and I want to make one thing really clear. I don't believe there's anything intrinsically racist or offensive about the words Free Palestine. However, context is everything. When those words appear daubed in red blood colours outside the entrance, immediately outside the entrance, to a building that functions as a synagogue, Jewish community centre and religious study centre, we know why that location's been chosen. When those words appear daubed in blood-coloured red at the very same location that the weekly humanitarian vigil, attended by members of all faiths, all communities and none, in support of the remaining hostages held by Hamas, takes place, we know why they've chosen that location. The reason is clear. It's a very specific kind of gaslighting. We might even call it Jew-baiting. And we will never stand by in the face of such hatred around here in Hertsmere. Our response to both that incident and the growth of the far right in Hertsmere and Tommy Robinson's unwanted and unwarranted interest in our area is clear. And it's multifaceted. We will remove racist and offensive graffiti within 24 hours of receiving the consent to do so where the land is private, or sooner if the land is public. No ifs, no buts, no caveats. Racist and offensive graffiti has no place in our borough, and we will remove it faster than they can put it up. We'll also continue to support the building and the development of places of worship around Hertsmere, as this administration has done with pride over the past 2 years, be it the new Jewish Life Centre in Borough Wood, the new mosque at Maxwell Park, similar mosque projects in Potters Bar and Bushy, the 5 other synagogue redevelopment projects around the borough, and the desire of the Hindu community to locate a new temple in the area. And of course, our ongoing support for the many churches that this borough has been home to across many years. And my friends, that support for the expansion of many faith-based pieces of infrastructure in our area is also our response to Tommy Robinson and the so-called patriots who marched last weekend. They readily cheered and applauded a speaker from New Zealand who called for the demolition of all non-Christian places of worship in the UK. Every call like that merits affirmative action in the opposite direction. And make no mistake that under our leadership, this borough will lead the way in making that a reality. We won't be supporting the County Council in taking down Union flags or St George's flags, but nor will we be surrendering our national flags to those who wish to use it as a symbol of violence, a symbol of fear, and a symbol of intimidation, and as a symbol of division. And I don't suggest for a moment the vast majority of those people displaying, flying, or waving those flags have any of those intentions. Sadly, we know that some do. As councillors, we're leaders of place. And as leaders of place, we cherish people's right to peaceful protest. It is, after all, a core British value. But we won't confuse that with assaults on police officers doing their jobs, or with local people around here feeling intimidated on our streets because of the colour of their skin, to the extent that a local headmaster had to write to me last week to highlight the impact that he sees the current climate around here in this borough is having on many of his pupils. I believe it was Gertrude Himmelfarb who famously said that the British tradition of liberty carries with it an expectation of duty and responsibility, combined with the individual protection that liberty affords. Sadly, I fear that some people are starting to lose sight of the responsibility part of that equation. Hertsmere is a borough proudly built on tolerance, diversity, and respect. And those have never just been words or cliches around here. We've welcomed waves of genuine refugees. We've welcomed immigrants. We have become a borough of sanctuary, even if we don't hold that official designation. And those people we have given sanctuary to have enriched the lives of our local people, of our communities, contributed to our economy and contributed to our civic life. Our national flags represent that diversity, and we'll never surrender them to those that use them as symbols of violence, as symbols of fear, and as symbols of division. So let's be absolutely clear this evening, Councillor Rosehill. People rightly take pride in the Union flag, in the St George's Cross, in the Cllr, and in the Red Dragon, and I join them in that. But what is real patriotism? I think it's about more than just the flags. As that generation, 1945, knew only too well. It's about building decent homes and ensuring no one's left behind. Patriotism's about creating good jobs and economic growth so people aren't left in poverty and so that people feel pride in their work and in their labour. And real patriotism is never about daubing graffiti on people's homes or shops, whether it's anti-immigrant graffiti outside Chinese restaurants in Boreham Woods Manor Way or anti-Jewish graffiti outside Nando's. Nor is real patriotism about intimidating our friends and neighbours, because that's not patriotism. That's behaviour that should shame anybody who loves our country and anybody who loves our borough. And in a not unrelated vein, I'm proud that over the past 2 days, this council has hosted a fantastic delegation of 50 local government cadet trainees from Israel, of all races and religions. They've visited key parts of the borough and held talks and sessions with myself, with members of the cabinet and senior council officers. In a global era in which we increasingly hear calls for boycotts, divestments and sanctions, we in Hertsmere will always respond by building bridges across our global local government family, within our creative industries sector and beyond. I know I've taken a few moments over these issues today, but as I said before, I make no apology for that, because in the current climate, our role as elected members, as leaders of place, first and foremost has to be to nurture that climate of inclusion, to nurture those genuine expressions of patriotism. And I have a real fear that our ability to deliver all of that is at risk of being tested to the limits over the weeks and months ahead, and all of us in this chamber need to rise to that challenge.